if I saw another day, only to scream into the night. Nothing ever tries to change, even if I want to realize. 'Cause I've been sitting here, same old ways, taking off without the same mistake. Darling, when you go away, it won't be as simple for you.
Yo guys, it's old man G here, back again, and another day, another dollar with this ongoing takeover saga. I'm joined once again by my good friend at Tom the Journalist, who's obviously here to give us a takeover update. But remember, guys, if you are new to the channel, to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Sorry, we're late, by the way. Remember to follow us on Twitter on X and smash the notification button for latest Manchester United news and more. Obviously, shouts just before I even go into some shouts, everyone who's obviously in the comments. Ilyas, I see Lucky Singh, Sawat Singh, Stephanie's in the chat as well. Who else is in? I think Everything Carpy's in the chat as well. Jamie's obviously in the chat. Yeah, so hopefully it'll be a good show. Obviously, if you have any questions for Tom, obviously let us know. But yeah, I think let's just sort of get straight into it, Tom. I mean, like where, like obviously we'll start with Radcliffe obviously being confident and stuff like that, because it's obviously been a while since Sheikh Jassim put his premium offer in. We haven't heard anything. Obviously, that seemed to change the mind of the Rain Group and obviously the Glazers. Yet still, we still have not actually heard anything from these guys. Oh, by the way, guys, I'm looking for new mods. If you want to be a mod in the chat, just put like a thumbs up or something. So, and we'll talk about it. But anyway, sorry, as an aside. So yeah, where are we here really? Because we're literally we're a month away, and this is why I said, guys, at the beginning when I did these shows, I said the Glazers are probably going to be in charge at the beginning of the season, because we're a month away before the beginning of this. The new season starts. Our first game is the 12th of August, I think, around that. So we're a month away from the new season, and we have no one of Manchester United right now. So, can you tell me? Can you tell me why? What's going on? What is actually going on, Tom? What's going on?
Well, I guess we can start with the Sir Jim Ratcliffe camp, and just to reiterate, to give the backstory, neither side of the argument have been communicated. So the Ineos camp with Sir Jim Ratcliffe haven't had the communication still, and neither has Sheikh Jassim, just to give that clarity there. But in terms of Sir Jim Ratcliffe personally, the camp and close sources towards him and the Ineos group, they're confident in terms of if the Glazer family choose to and decide to go along with them, even providing the legal jeopardy that is put against their offer, Sir Jim Ratcliffe feels that he's confident in terms of he can manoeuvre the board of directors at Manchester United currently. So all the different members and panels are on the board. They have to have a say on what their opinion is in terms of where the football club is best placed to go, and those people know really what Manchester United need, whether they need the financing to come in, whether they need a new stadium, an influx of cash to the training ground. Those people know the justifications as to what they need, essentially. And so Jim Ratcliffe feels that in and around the board members and the panel, that he can get the approval of the majority of the board to give him the say in terms of they believe that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's offer suits Manchester United more so than a Sheikh Jassim offer or minority financing. So from there, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is confident in the basis of he can get majority of the board to be on with his bid, but the only way you can do that is if the Glazer family indicate and communicate with, via Rain to communicate with Ineos that they're the bid that they want to go with. And from there, if they get the board approval, the minority stakeholders that have put up the legal jeopardy in the lawsuit case against Ineos's bid and the Glazer family, if they wish to take that offer, all parties will sit down and communicate in terms of if they can come to some mutual agreement to avoid the jeopardy of having a lawsuit legal battle, which will take months, potentially even years for both parties. It's going to cost major legal fees for both sides, and also that Ratcliffe potentially could still get control of the football club, but he'd still have to fight off the lawsuit case that's against him. So at this stage now, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is confident in terms of he can get the board's approval to go with his bid, for which none of the board members from the very start, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe made the proposal that he wanted to keep some members of the Glazer family involved in the football club and that the minority stakeholders wouldn't be able to accurately value their shares, as soon as the red herring was coming from the minority stakeholders that they were putting a legal challenge against his offer, the Manchester United board completely turned a 180. Most of the panel of the board of directors were pointing more towards Sir Jim Ratcliffe because it's a face that they knew. It's somebody that they've always known had an invested interest in buying United, and they also didn't know the full extent of the Sheikh Jassim offer, if it was a state-backed takeover or whatever, and what that could do to Manchester United as a brand. So from there, Sir Jim Ratcliffe had a lot of approval in the beginning, but as it's gone on and as the complications have come along to do with his ownership of Nice and how he would have to try and translate that to UEFA, how he would have to satisfy the Premier League with the debt that he would use to buy United and where that would go because it can't go on the football club. And then also the legal case against the stakeholders. So Jim Ratcliffe's really not got, it's like not having a dog in the race, really. That's the best way that I can say it. And when we discussed before around his offer being dead in the water, I mean, logistically, that's what a lot of experts and sources are saying. His offer really is dead in the water, and he's not changed it ever since. And I think if he ever was going to change it, it would have changed by now, because he knows for a fact that the offer that he's put in place completely gives a massive legal jeopardy. But the only thing that he's really holding on to is if some of the Glazer family members, anyway, 2 of them or all of them want to stay with a percentage cut, that's really the only thing that he's holding water on right now. And if he gets the Glazer family and Rain Group to communicate to him that he's the chosen party that they want to go with, then Sir Jim Ratcliffe believes he can strike a deal with the Manchester United board to state, this is my plans for the football club, basically do a speech, a presentation, this is what I want to do as the new owner. And if you're in my plans or whatnot, then this is what I want your job to be, and so forth. And then he believes that he can cut a deal with the minority stakeholders, for which he might propose to buy some of them out in terms of an outright buyout. He might propose to just keep Avram and Joel in with 20% and buy all the minority stakeholders out. And really, if he buys, say, 50% and then he buys the other 31%, you could have a 80% Sir Jim Ratcliffe Ineos ownership of United with Joel and Avram with 20%, and United might be delisted from New York Stock Exchange. These are some of the proposals that Sir Jim and the conversations that he would have with minority stakeholders. Whether the minority stakeholders feel it's enough for them to drop the legal case against Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the lawsuit that they can put against him and his offer, Benowns, but he feels confident in that he can persuade the board to approve his offer because of the plans that he wants to put in place for Manchester United. And he also feels that he can get the minority stakeholders involved in terms of he can offer them something extra apart, separate from what the Glazer family would get in terms of a payout to buy in, essentially.
Fair enough. It's just obviously I'll read the guys' the comments, but it just sounds really, really depressing because I would have thought that by now we would have been much. Okay, I'll ask you this, Tom, and obviously adding to the chat, guys. Obviously, for those who are interested, it's just that because clearly Sir Jim's bid still has problems, and
Yeah.
he hasn't changed his arrangement. And obviously the Sheikh Jassim bid is there. Like Joel and Avram clearly the ones that want to stay.
Hmm.
Um, how and it from the looks of things, with if the transfer is anything to go by, it just seems to be business as usual. So
Yep.
I've not seen anything that we've done in this transfer window that would, like, to be honest, I would even be more happy. I know it's weird. I know people might not like me for this, but I'd be even more happy if they're like, you know what, we're not signing any players. You know, we need to get this takeover thing sorted out, etc., etc., etc. You know, so that
Mm.
we're waiting till the next. You know, so because then I think, okay, they really are gonna be like handing over things over to the next set of people. But the reality is that it just feels like business as usual. Things just seem like they just continue to just go on, like nothing has happened. So
Mm.
what I want to know is, you know, we always said there was a risk the Glazers could stay, but what I want to know is how, you know, is this going to be a situation where the Glazers are going to be content dragging on this process even until next season? And are they doing it because Avram and Joel want to somehow make the Sir Jim Radcliffe bid work? Or is it that they're just waiting for more partial investment, etc.? I don't know.
Mm. I mean, the longer it goes on, you know, when we were talking about this, I would have said probably a month ago, the minority investment groups, a lot of them gave up hope, really. They knew when they were putting in the offers that they were for to buy, say, 15%,
Mm,
20%, or
mm,
provide a financing structure so United could
mm,
build a new stadium or whatever. Like the sort of proposals that they were putting in, you know, they were a long shot. A lot of them, they didn't really believe in that they was a real front runner in the race. They always assumed that the Sir Jim Ratcliffe offered to buy, you know, 69% at the time, and then, you know, there's different structures and options in terms of Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos if they buy 50%, 51%. Like, there's
mm,
different proposals in that. Sheikh Yassin, like I say, 100% buy the football club outright, delist from New York Stock Exchange, debt free, so forth. And the longer it goes on, the minority investment groups, from what I know anyway, they're gaining confidence. There is a slight optimism to Elliott Management, to Carlisle Group, to Oak Tree Capital, to SSB Partners, like all the different minority groups that put in those proposals after the third round of bids. They haven't changed the proposals; they've still been on the table. And you can look at that and say, well, the Glazer family have had ages to look at those offers, so you could dismiss that. But the longer it goes on, if the Glazer family don't think that the Sheikh Yassim offer suffices them to sell right now, and they
mm,
also don't feel like going with the Sir Jim Ratcliffe offer because of the lawsuit and the legal case that can be pursued against him and potentially themselves as they follow down that road. I mean, they need some sort of financing into United to
mm,
sustain it long term. As I've said before, they can make do this season really based upon the Champions League football and the television rights deals that they've got from the Premier League this season. Suffices them to stay at least one more season in control of the football club, with or without investment or a new ownership. So they can technically stay another year, but this time next year you'd basically be in the same situation that you're in now, where they need investment. So
mm,
the only thing I'm looking at with the Glazer family is they've tried to get investment before from outsiders. Like I say, Apollo Investment tried to buy the four siblings out, which would have given Joel and Avram the financing in place to then build a new stadium, invest in the team, do whatever they want to do. But obviously that deal butchered and it didn't happen. And as far as with the Glazer family are concerned, they will drag this out as long as they will, as long as they want to. And the
mm,
reason why they want to is they look at the Sheikh Jassim offer and they believe that the money that Sheikh Jassim has put in throughout the process, it's always had an increase. It's all from the first bid to the third bid,
wow,
there was a massive transparency difference, almost $1.5 billion difference, really, if we're talking figures, from the first offer that he placed to the third. The fourth offer was an increased financial offer where they put more money up front into the deal in terms of they were prepared to pay in two installments. And now for the fifth and final offer, they've put a big, as they say, premium offer in, and it's a one installment offer. It's wired transactionally straight. So with the Glazer family, the best way that I can answer this is when they've come into this process, they always looked at it from an investment perspective. They wanted investment coming into United because if they wanted to sell, they would have made it very clear that, look, we want to sell the football club. Other teams had done it. Liverpool, for example, came out and straight away, they didn't come out with the same stance with the Glazer family. They came out with, look, FSG, Sir John Henry, we're looking to sell. We're looking to sell Liverpool. And they didn't get the interest in terms of offers that they wanted. They had inquiries, but nothing concrete as maybe United have had with Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And from there forth, Liverpool then delisted and FSG said, no, we'll stick out with it on his own. But if we can get an investment partner to come in, whenever and wants to invest into Liverpool in a partnership with us, we're open to it. So they pulled the plug on the sale saga. And that's the one thing with the Glazer family that they haven't done. They haven't pulled the plug on the sale in terms of that's an option. And unless the Glazer family do a statement, and the reason why I say in terms of it's gone quiet, when it goes quiet, it normally means that conversations are happening. Whenever you do anything, you go to a meeting, for example, you go to a job interview. If you're in front of a panel, you do your interview, you come out and they're discussing in there, you won't hear a pin drop. And the reason why you won't hear a pin drop is because they're going through details. They're looking at what you can offer to them. In Sheikh Jassim's case, he can offer a full buyout. In Sir Jim Ratcliffe's case, he can offer a partnership for them to stay or potentially buy them all out if they want a reduced figure for it, but it's unlikely. So with the Ineos side of things, as I say, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is confident in terms of that he believes he can get the board and the minority stakeholders on board. And with the Glazer family, if they want to stay, the option is there for them to stay. The conversations that have always gone on in terms of the Ratcliffe side of things was that's really the only thing that's holding them afloat right now, because the offer itself is dead. It doesn't attract anybody. If Sir Jim Ratcliffe proposed that to a lot of Premier League football owners right now, the sort of offer that he's doing, and it has legal jeopardy towards it, a lot of the owners would laugh him out of the door. And, they'd tell him, there's the door, and, don't let it hit you on the way out. But the way it's gone on, and the longer the process goes on, it brings in all the other factors. Like I said, the minority investment, Sir Jim Ratcliffe can have the bit of confidence that, well, I'm still not out of the race yet, and Sheikh Jassim still sits there, and he doesn't know if his fifth offer is enough, and he doesn't know if that is it, or if the Glazer family want more from him, or what. There's not a definitive answer. And the way the Glazer family have played it, they've come this far and they've not shown their hand once. And to come nearly 7 months, upwards of 8 months in the process to sell something, and you've not actually shown your true intentions.
Yeah.
I mean, call Sherlock Holmes to investigate how they've done that. I really, it's been known to me how that nothing's let slip or anything. But when it comes to money, these guys know what they're talking about. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just saw a question. I think that's 2 questions actually. So, but just to comment, just to back up what you're saying, I think Pasty One says the thing that gets the fans backs up is the lack of information regarding the sale. What stage are we at? Who is he in the way for exclusivity? What plans they have for the club, etc., etc. Exactly. And I think just scrolling back up, there was a question for which everything Carpi says is. I have a question. Do you think Qatar will put another bid in to change the other 2 Glazers to sell, as the other 4 want for sale? And can there not be a no sale, as all need to agree?
Well, the way that the Qataris had done it was they'd always had that negotiation clause inserted in all their offers from the 1st to the 4th. But when they put in the 5th offer, they pulled the plug on the clause, and they uninserted it from the offer that they'd sent to Rain and the Glazer family directly. And they instead labelled that no negotiations further until we have communication on our offer. And this is our 5th and final offer. They put the offer in on the Tuesday. On the Friday, they said, we're not communicating any longer, and we're not going to request for updates from Rain or the Glazer family directly. So if you want to discuss the offer with us, you come to us, which is our offer. And from there, as I say, there's been no communication from towards the Sheikh Jassim camp in the same fold that there hasn't been towards the Sijin Ratcliffe camp. And in terms of will the Qataris put in another bid, I don't necessarily think they'd put in a formal bid, because I think with what they've said, and as I said with the Glazer family, they understood they believe that that is it in the terms of the Qataris' minds. They're fed up. They've waited long enough for a football club that they might not even end up getting in the long run anyway. And in terms of with the Qataris putting in another bid, I don't think they'll put in a sixth offer or anything around that, because, as I say, they've not communicated for at least 2 weeks now with Rain or the Glazer family. And if they were going to put in another offer, I think they already probably would have done. And as I say, I think this fifth and final offer, that is that. And in terms of potentially persuading the other two Glazer families, members, in terms of if you're meaning probably Joel and Avram, the best way I can look at that is if all 6 members, as I say, have always agreed upon that the right fee comes in, we sell, and we all go. That's it. That's always been a stance for this whole process. But something that become known to me, which, well, it would have been yesterday, was that's been the stance with the Glazer family for the last 3-4 years. If we have somebody who's interested in buying the football club that we own, we ask for this price, and if they meet that price, then we sell. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe has always been in the back ears towards knowing what that offer is, or he might have known for a while what the Glazer family's offer is in terms of what they would want to sell straight away. But in terms of another bid, I don't think they'll put in another bid. But if the Glazer family communicated with the Sheikh Jassim camp, and they used, and Rain communicated, and they built that communication line again with them, and they gave them, if you like, the green light to say that you're the offer that we want to go with, but we want a bit more money, then if that's the case, Sheikh Jassim's happy to reopen negotiations. His camp are happy to renegotiate, but they're not going to negotiate when you still have other parties that are interested at the table. If you want to negotiate with us, right, you pick us then, and you can negotiate with us again, and then we might put more money into the bid and the offer. But unless you do that, then it's a no-starter. So the way that the Glazer family have run it, and as I say, the longer this goes on, they can easily just pull the plug on it. And I know that, terrifies some Manchester United fans, because they will look at it and think we've come this far to come away with literally nothing. Nothing but an 8-month, media cycle and spin. That's all it will have been. But I also look at it from a Glazer family's perspective, and I think I don't see how they would walk away without taking something with them. And I don't think they would have come this far, and they would have wasted their own time to have...
I also don't... Sorry to interrupt you. I also just don't see how... Because surely they must know by now if they stay. Because if they're all about money, at the end of the day, if you reject both, you're not going to get... I mean, I'm not a financial expert. I don't know. So, but what I'd say is that if the Glazers decide, right, we are not going to engage with us, we're going to stay, they must surely know that, one, obviously the fan backlash will be incredible. It'll be absolutely incredible. That's
they've never cared about that, though. So
they never cared about that. So I get that, but it doesn't matter. However, the media backlash, by that I mean the media backlash, like the negative perception, because people will still have a negative perception of the fact that these basically clowns who said they were going to sell, said they were going to, and then actually it was a multitude about nothing, which will then lead on to businesses, finance, or other forms of investment, thinking like, we can't really take these guys seriously anymore. They said they were going to invest, they said going to invest, but clearly they're not serious about the process. So even if they decide in the future, oh, actually, no, we really, really want to sell, you can you imagine a lot of people go, no, we're not going to partake in your circus. Like, if anything, you need this for leverage, because the reality is the Glazers aren't the Glazers. They don't have money. So all it takes is for Ten Hag to have a bad third season, which is possible, and before you know it, boom, that's it. commercial revenues go down, no investment savings, all these different things sort of go down, and you're left in a situation where you had 5 billion on the table, and now you can't get that again. You cannot.
Yeah. That's what and that's something that I've always stood by in terms of the sort of figures that the Sheikh Jassim offer puts in place for them to be bought out right now. They won't see that unless a new stadium is built, or unless a new training facility is invested in, or unless all the different teams, the men's team, women's team, and youth team, are successful at all different levels. But unless you had that, you will never see this sort of offer again. And that's why when I say it's a premium offer, it's a premium offer in terms of they won't ever get this offer for 4 or 5 years, potentially, if it takes that long to build a new stadium. Even with the Sir Jim Ratcliffe offer, I'll give it its flowers and credit. The valuation that he's putting on in terms of a full buyout, from what I know, apart from not knowing the official numbers, is it's very close to the Glazer family's £6 billion evaluation. But it means that they would have to wait longer and get the cash later. And then you still wouldn't have a new stadium or anything like that. So it's a balance. You have Sheikh Jassim who can give you money here now fast and you can get out of the kitchen. But you also have the Sir Jim Ratcliffe offer where you can be bought out for more money in the long term in terms of the valuation potentially. But there's no guarantee that you will get a bigger chunk of money later down the line, rather than selling here and now, because Sir Jim Ratcliffe's not set a price to buy you out in the future. He's just set that he would want to negotiate to buy you out. That's it. So you could demand, I don't know, you could demand £2 billion for 20% of United if you wanted to. But does it mean that Sir Jim Ratcliffe will pay that? Probably not. But the only difference is, as long as the Glazer family hold on to this football club, they believe that Manchester United in 5-10 years' time will be the first, maybe behind, maybe say a Barcelona or Real Madrid in terms of valuation, because both are building new stadiums. But apart from being behind both of the two Spanish giants, Manchester United will be up there as a double-digit billion-pound football club in terms of the evaluation. And then if anybody wanted to buy the Glazer family out, realistically, it's going to have to be a nation state. I'm not going to deny in saying that. Unless a nation state's going to stump up with the £10 billion to buy a football club, that's the sort of project, and this is how the Glazer family work. But as I say, unless there's a new stadium built in place, and even with the Sheikh Jassim sort of offer, and I know there's been a lot of media speculation today, coming out from a very respectable journalist that I respect anyway, in terms of Simon Stone. He basically came out with it and said that, look, Qatar as a nation, they want a Premier League football club. They always have. And the one thing that I've always knew, especially with the Middle East, was there was 4 nations about 10, 15 years ago who wanted to invest in sports. That was Saudi Arabia, that was UAE, Qatar, and you had Bahrain. These 3 nations wanted to invest into football clubs, but Manchester United, as the biggest Premier League football club at the time, 10 years ago, the Glazer family were sitting proud and happy, so they didn't need to sell. You obviously have visions, and the Middle East men, they had visions to buy football clubs. Qatar have always valued the Premier League, hence they bought PSG for millions of pounds. They've turned it into a multi-billion-pound football club. It's a good investment. If they ever sold, QSI and Nasser Al Khalifa decided to sell PSG on, they would probably make, I'd say, upwards of 3, maybe 4 billion. If you're lucky in terms of a buyer for that football club, when you paid millions. Really, it's a similar scenario to what the Glazer family have done. Bought United off of debt only, and then they're going to get paid out billions potentially if they sell it. But the one thing I know with Qatar is that they want a Premier League football club at some point.
Well, sorry to interrupt you. That's and obviously once we finish this segment, we'll go and read your comments, guys, to get your questions in. But actually, what you just said actually just builds us into our next question, because Obviously, the second part of this title was basically about Sheikh Jassim Rethink, and this idea of Sheikh Jassim Rethinking, and obviously in Twitter Spaces, there's always this idea of they could go for Spurs and blah blah blah, but
Yeah.
you know, how true is the notion that if this whole thing falls through and Sheikh Jassim and the Qataris just get tired of this whole process, that they say, you know what, we'll just go for like a Spurs or something like that. Like how true is that exactly?
Well, the way that I knew from, and it was actually Nasser Al Khalifa, because Nasser Al Khalifa, on behalf of QSI, he held talks in London with Daniel Levy about buying a minority stake in Spurs at the time, and the way that Daniel Levy was operating the football club, and he had a load of commercial deals coming in and everything, it didn't make sense to get investment in when you was getting it in from commercial partners anyway, who you had partnerships with. For example, as I say, NFL, Formula One deal that they just signed, and it didn't make sense at the time to need a minority investor to come in. And their owner in Joe Lewis, in partnership with Daniel Levy, like Joe Lewis is a very wealthy man, so they don't necessarily need a partner to invest into Spurs. The one thing that Qatar look at with Tottenham, though, and I definitely know from in terms of QSI's perspective, if they were going to buy a Premier League football club, they've always looked at two, and they looked at Manchester United because of the brand and how the stature of that football club, and as a project, there's nothing stopping them building a new stadium if they wanted to. There's nothing stopping them buying XYZ amount of players into the teams, and there's also nothing stopping them in terms of redeveloping the training ground. They've just done it with Paris Saint-Germain Football Club, where they've just modernised the training facility there. I think it was a €300 million investment deal that they put in, and the modernisation for that training ground, the pitches, the facilities that it offers for players of all ranks, youth ranks, women's team and the men's team, like, it's perfect for modern day football and how it should be run. But the one thing that I know with the Qataris, and not necessarily the group that's trying to buy Manchester United, as I say, because it's private individuals that's buying it, not the state, from my understanding anyways, high net worth private individuals, whether they have links to the state or not, or have had, remains to be seen because they're not named at this time. But in terms of the Qatari state, Spurs is the ideal football club to buy because everything's done. Literally everything is built already for you. And if I'm being honest with you, if you took Sheikh Jassim's £5 billion, if that's sort of the quota of the offering, because NDA agreements don't state the official numbers, if that was sort of the quota, and just to speculate, then £5 billion for Spurs makes sense because you have a stadium built. Albeit it's not as big a commercial football club as United, but it's on the rise because of the commercial deals that they have in place. So they're getting more revenues into their football club. And as soon as that £1 billion loan debt that is paid off on the stadium is repaid, Spurs then have a brilliant brand spanking new stadium, which is always going to attract partners, supporters, hospitality guests. So therefore, they're always going to make money as a football club. Whereas Manchester United are probably losing money based upon that they don't have the best facilities at this time. And in terms of the Qataris, they look at the Spurs sort of model and think, well, they've got the stadium, they've got the training ground, so we wouldn't have to invest in that. Yeah. So we're paying for a project that's already been built, but the only thing that we'd have to do is just build the men's team and women's team. That's it. We just have to invest in that. And we would sustainably run the football club as it is. The stadium, we'd still keep up to date and so forth. Yeah. So buying Spurs makes sense from an investment perspective. If you want to buy a football club that's already built, that's why I think a lot of nation states would look at someone like Spurs. But also, if you're looking at it from a different perspective, even clubs like West Ham would attract buyers based upon, well, they've got a stadium facility which is brilliant for a club with the size of and the legacy that West Ham has with the London Stadium. But you just have to improve the team. That's all you would have to do is improve the team. And look, Saudi Arabia are doing it with Newcastle and they're in it for the long haul. So Qatar could easily do that with one of these other football clubs if they wanted to and wished to do so. But the one thing that I've always known is they've always valued Manchester United as the club that they would want the most out of all of them. Hence why an individual from that state, whether there's, as I say, people in the net worth individual inner circle that are trying to acquire the football club, whether they have government links or not, it remains to be seen. But the one thing that I've always known is they've always valued Manchester United as a football club. And if I'm being honest, if QSI wasn't to have invested in buying PSG at the time, and maybe if the Glazer family, in and around early 2010, that sort of time, when I think in 2011 they actually bought Paris Saint-Germain Football Club. If the Glazer family were looking for a sale at that sort of time, then potentially there was an option there where QSI would have come in and potentially tried to buy United. Obviously, the figures for United would have been a lot less than they are now, based upon you going back in time. But the way that they structure deals, they look at it from an investment perspective, but they also look at it from a future perspective, based upon what they can do with a football club. And with this, as I say, with the Sheikh Jassim offer, if this carries on for any longer, just the update really around Sheikh Jassim's camp is that they are considering their options if the process drags on any longer, and it does hint towards that there is a frustration within the camp. And I'm not going to deny in saying it that it has been spoken about within the camp. Should we pull out? It has been discussed in and around the members within the camp where, look, boss, we've been in this for upwards of 7-8 months. We don't even know what they want to do. Like, we don't even know their decision. So are we wasting our time? Should we go and invest in another football club?
Yeah.
That probably we might have even bought in 7 months.
Yeah.
Really. And in terms of with Sheikh Jassim personally, the indication around him is that he's expected to be patient over a decision. So he will wait to potentially hear the decision, but he's not going to wait forever. And if it drags on upwards of a year, if you come to maybe the year to the day when he actually entered the process, he'd pull out because he doesn't see the time in terms of why wait around for something that clearly they can't be that hasty to get rid of because they would have sold it to me by now. There's nobody else that wants to buy it, 100% anyway. So if you wanted to sell it, you've had the chance for over a year to sell it. Pretty much doing maybe what Manchester United did to David De Gea. You've had the time to think about my offer. All right, we'll just pull the offer away then. See you later. We'll go and buy another football club. And despite of what Sheikh Jassim could do, I mean, I don't necessarily think he would do because, as I said, the indication has always been he's a Manchester United fan through and through. But he doesn't need Sheikh Jassim to front a bid. You can easily get somebody else to front a bid to go and buy Liverpool if you wanted. You can go and get somebody else to front a bid to go and buy Spurs, as I say, West Ham. There is football clubs there that you can have a different frontman to lead for you based upon maybe the Emir of Qatar's orders that he wants to buy a Premier League football club, but he can't because of their ownership of PSG right now. But as I say, the way that the Qataris have always worked is as a state, and from QSI, the Qatar Sports Investments perspective, if they ever wanted to buy a Premier League football club, Manchester United was always the one that they wanted to buy. The brand, the size of the football club, and the future of what they can do with it, that's the one that they've always wanted. And really, it is the one that got away because there was indications that they were looking at buying it, as I say, in and around 2010. But as I said, the Glazer family weren't looking to sell. So it might be a story in a case of should have been, could have been, would have been, but maybe won't. But as I say, we will wait and see. But Sheikh Jassim's not going to wait forever. So if it carries on any longer, there has been indications from his camp that a conversation about pulling out has been talked about and discussed. So if you like TikTok for the Glazer family, really.
Oh dear. Let me just quickly read some comments, then we'll move on. I don't actually go live for some. We'll probably sit live for maybe another like 10, 15 minutes and then sort of round things up. So because I've got to go to bed, and I think it's quite, this is quite depressing. So if you have any questions, guys, obviously get them in. I'll just read these comments, and also get those likes up, guys. We've got more than 100+ people watching, but we're like struggling to get to 50 likes. So if you are new to the channel, even if you're new, like, it literally doesn't cost anything. If you could just, drop a like, it helps with the algorithm, it helps the channel get out there. I am hoping to get to 4K subscribers by my birthday. That'd be great. If not, at least by the end of the month, so we're just over 100 there. So can we get 100 subscribers in the next 2 weeks? If you could do that, that'd be great. Thanks, guys. So yeah, just a few things. So indeed, Andia Joseph says, I want to ask, is there no rules in the Premier League that can force them to sell, just like Chelsea? So the Chelsea situation is a bit different because obviously that was Ukraine, Russian, Putin attack. So it's a very different story here. And obviously Stephanie in the chat, who's now a new mod. Respect, obviously, new mods in the chat with Jamie and Stephanie. So appreciate it. Yeah, get those likes up. She also says it's like Groundhog Day, never-ending cycle of bids and NDA. One of the bidders will eventually pull out. Hope it's a gym for all our sakes. Qatar obviously in. I hope so too.
Sir Jim's not. Yeah, just to clarify though, with Sir Jim, he, even in that interview that he put to the Sun, he said that he's prepared to wait. So, him pulling out, I mean, maybe that's what the Glazer family want. They want the decision made for them, so then they can save face that way. It really, like I say, the only people that know is Joel and Avram. And listen, I'm not going to come here as a journalist and state what I say in terms of that. I'm in Joel and Avram's mind, and I'm a mind reader, because if I was, I can give everybody the answers, and I'd probably be a millionaire off of the back of it. But it like I say, it depends on what the brothers think, because as I said, the other 4 siblings, they've always been prepared to sell. So it's really up to Joel and Avram.
Fair enough. Yep, that makes sense. Let's quickly. Okay. Pastor says, I feel sorry for Erik ten Hag. He probably thought we would have new owners by now. He had big plans in place for this, and now he has to mix everything up and start looking elsewhere. Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I think obviously with any coach manager, you're wanting to sort of get, what's the budget? How much do we have? But like I said at the start, it seems like it's just business as usual. Clearly he wanted Mount. That definitely he wanted Mount, because you don't give Mount the number 7 or promise number 7 if you don't want him. So there must have been something there. So I don't think you can say that he has not been backed or he's not got any of his players, because there clearly was a desire to Mason Mount. And obviously, if he signs to Nana, that would be another thing. Presumably, he wants a striker as well. So I don't necessarily think you can say that, if he doesn't, if he doesn't get X, Y, and Z, that like he didn't get his players because of, and blame the takeover, because he is getting some of his players. It's just that I think that the difference is, if we had new owners before, could it have been a situation where actually no, Manchester United are also going for Caicedo, they're also going for Kim Min-jae, they're also going for Harry Kane, although even with new owners, I don't think Daniel Levy would have sold Kane to United. But are we going for bigger and be more decisive with our targets, or are we taking our time like we're doing now? Who knows? I don't know. Charlie says it's going to be interesting to see the rage that will roll over the Glazers if they end up staying. After torturing fans like this, it can get very ugly. I hope not, but they are crazy fans. I mean, that is a fair point. I mean, I would say that those guys can't even go near Old Trafford for a year. So like there is no way that you can sort of, I'm thinking people probably burning American flags. I don't even know. So, but you can't. I mean, obviously, the thing is, there's always going to be match-going fans. So you say that, but I still think that people will still go and watch Manchester United because it's Manchester United. However, obviously, there will be a subset of fans that might obviously take it too far, and they shouldn't, because it's wrong. But they've got to expect the backlash if they just mess around like this. They've got to. I think James says, plus if the stadium doesn't get sorted, it won't be long to collapse. I mean, yeah, at some point they have to do some development work on the stadium. Like, they have to, like, just from a purely safety point of view, because you're seeing, the toilets flooding, you're seeing the building work. They'll have to do some sort of you know, with the capacity and the wear and tear, they'll have to do some sort of development on it, but they don't have the money for it. So let's again, it's like I said, it's like if you're taking £1 billion and can continue taking money out of the club, and you don't have the money, and the only thing I can think of is that Joel and Avram are really, really that deluded that they think that in maybe how many years' time, that they're going to get a Super League. That's why, like, all this makes sense because, like, when the Super League came, Joel and Avram and Woodward, who was the spearheading and all the rest of it, they were the main dons that wanted this to go through. City and Chelsea kind of was like, yeah, okay, we can kind of we'll kind of follow along, even though we're kind of fine because we've got what was one, you know, the Russian billionaire and obviously Mansour, but we'll kind of just go along just because, you know, the other big teams are kind of going along. But the reality is that, like, the main money dons, obviously the Americans, Liverpool owner, Kroenke, United, all those guys, dons wanted it. They wanted it. Spurs, Daniel Levy, and Offset, they definitely wanted it. And the main driver from the league was United. I think we were the last English club to be like, yeah, we
Man United were the last to pull out.
Or the last to pull out. And at least Liverpool's owners were like, we should have discussed this with you. We're sorry. They didn't say anything. The Glazers didn't do anything of the sort. And you know why they didn't do anything of the sort? Because that is what they wanted. They want a situation where United go into a MLS Super League closed system where they're getting annually 200 to 300 million pounds annually. You know, they're getting that. And so you got a cash cow. We'll have that for 10 years. Fine. We've got 3 billion. And then again, and so on and so on. That's what they want. So that's the only thing I can think of as to why the Glazers might stay is they're thinking there is a chance that a Super League is coming. And we want to be part of that pie, because if we sell this asset to Qatar, Sajim, for however 5 billion or 6 billion, the reality is that if a Super League comes and you're guaranteed, I think there's the Perez was like 200 or 300 million a season for every club to participate. Then, bro, I mean, 10 years from now, that's already, not including all the other money you'd get, that's already 2 to 3 billion already. And then obviously 20 years, 3 billion, and so on and so on and so forth, not including the other stuff. So that's the only reason I can think of, because I see no other reason as to why you'd be so desperate to hang on, other than the fact that you're deluded in thinking that Super League is coming. But I don't know. Let me just read some comments and then we'll go. Is there anything else? Let me just have a look. Just still looking at some comments. How embarrassing would it be if they bought Spurs or West Ham when they try? It would be. Any other comments? Why not the fans putting $1 billion to boost it? Well, I mean, what's his name? The like, I can't remember the Finnish guy wanted
Thomas
to do
Ziliakis.
Ziliakis, exactly. That was what he wanted to do, you know. So,
well, he wanted to put in 3 billion of his own money, which he never proved that he had.
Yeah,
and then he also wanted the fans to do. I think it was like £3 per billion fans or something like that, and then it comes up to £3 billion, and there's the other money.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good idea because it meant that you had fan ownership within the club, but it never got off the ground if you can't prove that you've got the money in the first place anyway.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Right idea, wrong person, I guess.
Exactly. I think it was a bit of PR, if I'm perfectly honest. Raul Minison says, I reckon if we get to the 1st of August with no sale, Jazim pulls his bid and buys another Premier League club. Radcliffe gets in and we fight for 5th every year. That would be mad. That'd be mad. So, but see, the thing is, I'm not even certain at this point whether the Glazers even want to sell to Radcliffe. I mean, I don't know what you think, Tom. Like, do you think that because obviously weeks ago with Radcliffe's bid, we were saying that like they were almost going to announce Radcliffe as the new owner, and then Sheikh Jassim put his thing in. So what I don't understand is if that was the case, what? Because Radcliffe's bid hasn't changed. So if that's the case, if they're like, okay, we still don't want full sale, we don't want sorts of thing. Why is there the hesitancy on the Ratcliffe deal? They could, the communication was just like, okay, yeah, we want full sale, but you know what I mean? It feels to me now, whether that's because they've learned recently that that the Ratcliffe deal will bring more legal complications. That's going to cause problems. I don't know. So, but it just feels weird that, like, I don't disagree with you, Raul, but it's just like, okay, but they don't want a full sale from Qatar because they want to stay in the club. They want to stay in the club. Fine. Okay, so go and take the Sir Jim Ratcliffe bid there. That's been on the table for literally the last 3 months.
Yeah.
But you're not doing that. It's odd, It's just odd. I don't get it.
No, I mean it doesn't make sense in what you've said in terms of it. But sorry, it makes sense in terms of what you said based upon why they haven't just gone for it if it's been sat there for 3 months. But one of the reasons why with the Glazer family is that in the beginning of the process they hired Rain to conduct the advertisement and get the right people with the necessary funds to the table to do them a deal. That's what they hired Rain for. They also had their personal aides and financial advisors from Rothschilds who have worked in partnership with them for upwards of 10 years as a family from a financial side and a legal standpoint, for which their opinion holds weight. And the way that it's always been communicated from when Sheikh Jassim put in from the third bids, even though Sir Jim Ratcliffe's offer was valuing it more in the long term than Sheikh Jassim was in the short term, the Rain Group and also the Rothschilds, they both discussed with the Glazer family personally, and they've always been in contact with the Glazer family. And I said this upwards of 2 months ago. The Rain Group's opinion was in favour that the family should pursue a full sale where possible. That was always the stance that I've always been communicated, was pursue a full sale where possible. There's been a confirming factor that's come from the US in the last couple of days, which has really changed the complexion of it, because they all they said was pursue full sale where possible. Now the sources that we've used from the US who have had close links with Rain have communicated that they should go with Sheikh Jassim. They're actually labelling it now. And the Rain Group who have advertised the sale, they obviously get a cut out of it, out of any sale or any eventual, purchase of a football club. But it's not only just thinking about themselves. And if I'm being honest, if I'm a partner or I'm advertising something, I'd rather get them to sell the full thing than a little bit of it, because I'm going to get more money for it. But from these guys' perspective, these guys have sold Chelsea Football Club. These guys have sold the WWE. These guys have sold, multi-billion-pound businesses, football clubs, whatever you want to call them, entertainment franchises. And when these guys tell you to do something, you should listen. And really, the Glazer family, in the beginning of the process, they didn't listen. Because they've always assumed, as I say, that they can get £10 billion in 5 years and all these stupid figures. You can't get anywhere near that without a new stadium. Not even probably 7 billion. Even the figures that you're quoting now of 6, you'd be lucky. And you are very lucky that you have 2 people that might pay that or come close to paying that. You're very, very lucky, considering you have no stadium, no training facilities, and the team's been really poor for 10 years. But from Rain Group's perspective, the communication was full sale where possible. Now the communication is Sheikh Jassim's offer, based upon what his 5th and final offer gives you. Because, as I've said to everybody here, they won't see these sort of offers again, whether it's the Ratcliffe offer or the Sheikh Jassim offer. But the Sheikh Jassim offer for a full buyout now, unless they go with a partner or do whatever with Ratcliffe or a minority investment group, if they don't build a new stadium, they're not going to get that sort of money again. That's the difference. So the Glazer family need to decide what they want to do. Whether Joel and Avram are thinking in their own minds, we want to stay, everybody around you is telling you to sell. The siblings, as I say, have put pressure on you to sell because they wanted out 12 to 18 months ago with Apollo Investment. You've then had the same scenario with Rain Group, giving their opinion now that you should go for this candidate, not you should pursue this option, that candidate. That's who you should go for. And the same thing now with the personal financial aids in the Rothschilds. From the very start, even when the first bids went in, they said full sale where possible. Get out of the football club. And those people have worked with the Glazer family for upwards of a decade. So those people know the Glazer family more than any of us do, and I do, certainly. So when they're telling them to sell, the siblings around them, their own flesh and blood are telling them to sell, and the people who you've hired to actually run this process for you are telling you to sell to this person. If that doesn't trigger something in your mind to think, maybe we should listen to them. Maybe these people know more than us about the financial world. But then again, we got a football club on debt, £700 million debt. We've only ever put £200 million of his own money in, and we're going to make billions. So we know what we're talking about. We're the Glazer family. We're the big financiers of football. We own the biggest football club in the Premier League and so forth. And they're arrogant. They are arrogant, if I'm being completely honest, around the Glazer family. They are. If this was just any average Joe of a football club, you probably wouldn't even know the Glazer family were.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only thing.
No.
And so long as they hold on to Manchester United, they still stay relevant. As soon as they sell Manchester United, nobody's ever going to really care about the Glazer family after that.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, they're not. Do you really think anybody's going to follow the Glazer family with Tampa Bay Buccaneers? It's not going to happen.
No.
Just in terms of even that, when they built the new stadium for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in terms of their NFL team, this just proves my point in terms of the arrogance and the spite of these people. They made the fans pay for the stadium. They made the fans fund them to redevelop and rebuild Tampa Bay Buccaneers NFL stadium. Because what they said to the supporters was, you either finance it for us, or we're just going to move the team to another city. You imagine they try and do that with Manchester United.
Yeah.
You fans, you can pay for the stadium then. If you don't, and if it was legal, I would be sure as hell that they would have went for that avenue. If they could move Manchester United out of the city of Manchester and put it in Stockport, put it into wherever you could as a city, you best believe they would try and do it. If it meant that they could get a stadium out of the fans. Yeah. And that's how these people work. If they can get somebody else to do something for them, they're going to do it. That's just how they live.
Yep. That you couldn't say it better myself, Tom. Let me just read some final comments, and then we'll begin to round things up. Let's have a look. Again, Pacey says, if things don't change with the club situation, we'll become a top 8 team while our rivals get further ahead every season. Not good. Reserve Bet's the best fan base in the world. I don't disagree with that. Real again says, I hope I pronounced that right. Because there'll be 3 clubs with super wealth we can't compete with. Then Chelsea with more money investment, Liverpool and Arsenal on par with bets. Oh yeah, I mean, I really think the next season is going to be tough because Liverpool are probably going to be back. You know, City will go from strength to strength. Arsenal will see what happens there. Newcastle obviously in the fray as well. I'm not sure about Chelsea, if I'm perfectly honest, or Spurs, because they still look a little bit dodgy in my eyes, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's definitely going to be tough. As far as I'm concerned, my goal right now for next season is just to get 5th place. It's just to secure Champions League until this whole takeover saga is hopefully put to bed. That's literally it. I don't think we're going to anyone thinking that we're going to be competing for the Champions League, the Premier League, anything like that. They're having a laugh, and I wouldn't be surprised if City win the treble again. Like I'll just keep a stack right there. Let's have a good look. So let's have a look. I will. Lucas says I will cancel matches next season. Get that right, Tom. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people will boycott if that happens. Joel says, wouldn't that be something? Old Trafford closed because of poor maintenance, essentially. I'm surprised him's not been because of roof leaking. Well, it's got to be for something. Stephanie says, question, can you see the Sheikh Jim buying another PL club with United? And if so, I think we kind of did address this a bit earlier where we alluded to potentially Spurs, but that mainly that it's obvious that Manchester United is Sheikh Jassim's first choice, but obviously he's not going to wait indefinitely. Let's have a look. And again, Glazer seemed to have lovely attention to get a kick out of being in control. True narcissistic behavior, probably. Zotang Team shouts and says, if I'm Glazer, I'd never sell. The value name of my United's asset is worth more than money itself. It's like owning the LA Lakers, New Yankees, that's Cowboys. I agree and disagree with this at the same time. I think you're right because of the branding name. The only thing I would say is that I still think that has a limit, and you're seeing that with when you look at a lot of young people now that are wearing City tops, that are wearing PSG tops, that are wearing Barcelona tops. So things change. So yes,
it doesn't last a lifetime.
It doesn't last a lifetime, you know. So yes, United are relying on the brand they established in the in the 90s and the sort of mid 2000s. But like, you're also going to think, okay, what happens like 50 years from now, for example, when City, Barca, Madrid, all those teams become dominant, and you've got now a younger generation. Obviously, those guys have got older, died off, etc. And most of the young, like, I'll be honest, like I go around speaking to like young people, and I don't hear, unless their dad was a United fan, they just happened to support it with their dad. Most of the young that I've seen around, they're like, yeah, City, yeah, PSG, the social media-esque types of teams, And then the other thing I would say to the point is that, like, then why did they, if there was an issue, or if they didn't, why have they started this process in the first place? Like, why did they list Manchester United for sale, or even partial investment in the first instance? I know that they wanted partial investment. That's what they wanted, obviously, but they knew, even they wouldn't have been dumb enough to realize that if you're going to want partial investment in this club, you've got to if you want to sell the club even for the highest bidder, you're going to have to value the club at a reasonable amount. Yep. And the fact that they have, like, it's just, the whole thing just doesn't make sense. The fact that I feel like the Glazers have overvalued Manchester United, is, I don't know. I just don't get it. It's just to me, it's like, if you just wanted to stay, then just exit the process and just focus on running the football club as best you can. Like, I just don't understand why you're going through this process, or even what the delay is, even if fundamentally all you want to do is stay. I mean, I don't know. Am I speaking nonsense? I don't know. Are you there, Tom?
Yeah. No, I don't think you're speaking nonsense. I think you're speaking really, as you say, from the heart. Really, is what you feel as a Manchester United fan, and that's the one thing that I guess a lot of people have. If anyway, with supporting United, is you have heart. The Glazer family.
I was like, all the Glazers do invest around 500 million of their own money, and they can leverage the club for 50 years. Do they even have that money to leverage? I'm just getting at that. Like, do they even have that money to leverage? Do they even have that money with the amount of debt that's on the club already? Do they even have that money to leverage? I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't know. So, but I don't know.
I know that they're financially wealthy enough to do things if they wanted to. For example, if they wanted to build a new stadium, like, it's not a problem. They probably could do it, but why do it with your own money? If you're a businessman, you don't ever use your own money to buy anything. That's the one thing that I've always known, anyway. When you can just get a loan, and then you just repay the interest payments over time.
Yeah.
And then, depending on how those interest payments work, you might save yourself a fortune. And then if you then sell that business on in the future, you've made even more money. And unfortunately, that's how business and finance work. And with the Glazer family, Manchester United to them is not a football club. It's a business. And you can tell by that with how it's run, because it isn't run like a football club. It's run like a business. Because there's more focus on, if Manchester United got a sponsorship deal with Jordan, then there would be in Manchester United signing You know, I don't even know. It's signing number 9 right now.
Mm.
Hence why there hasn't been a number 9 signed at the moment.
Any few more comments? It just seems to be more conversations. Lux says boycott matches, new season, guys. I am Kick says I'm okay to be relegated. The Glazers sell. Elios obviously Don says the club is finished. So Zoiting again says Yankees haven't won since 2000, Cowboys since the 90s, and they are still the most valuable sports team in the world. Their value also increases. I hear that, but I don't know. I feel football is different. I feel football is different than the Americans because obviously American sports, Americans is different, and the Yankees and that's all the more valuable, and that's still presumably from America. Like I assume you don't get tons of Yankee fans in, I presume, in Asia or in Africa or in or what have you. You know, so presumably that's because of their large predominantly American fan base. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just guessing here, but I just feel with football is different. You know, and especially I feel that Manchester United success came just at the beginning of what I would call the social media era, like just before the 2011. So it was still kind of there, but it was the beginning. Like now we're in full-blown social media era right now, and when you look at the likes of like PSG haven't won a Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you look at how valuable they are. You know, you look at the amount of fans, the media friends, where they are. They haven't even won. They haven't won anything. So my concern is that yes, I do think that Manchester United, you know, because of its success, generations, will maintain its value for a while. But I just don't. But for the long term, if they continue performing the way they are, and the way that likes of City, maybe for Newcastle, so the increased competition that's there, I don't necessarily think that brand power will be as big as people make it out, because subsequent generations of fans and boys, girls, whatever. Sorry, are gonna go to PSG, are gonna go to City, are gonna go to Barca, are gonna go to all these other teams that have far more brands and media hype around them than Manchester United do currently. Anyway, and we've already seen it. We've already seen Manchester United value go down. So it's already happening. So, but you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Barrister says they are very poor communicators. We don't even know what's going on in the team. They should leave us. I don't disagree with that. RC says, why can't the FAEPL do anything about it? Why are they allowing us to even own this club? After all, they force Hicks and get it. So that is true, but yeah, I think we've gone past that. Unfortunately, now leverage bites are legal now as well. So yeah, so I don't know whether the Glazers can the Glazers leverage more debt now again? Could they actually do that?
I don't think they can add to the existing debt that's already here. Yeah. Only if it sustains the football club's running. So essentially, if they wanted to take £1 billion loan out to build a new stadium, they would have to put it on themselves, not Manchester United Football Club.
Yeah.
The way that Daniel Levy did it was with Spurs, for example, was at that time it was legal that you could do that if you wanted to put the debt for a stadium on the football club itself, but why do that when it decreases the valuation of the asset? There's no point. So if you put it on Joe Lewis, or you put it on Daniel Levy, or you put it on one of their investments that they have, or one of their companies, then it's an easier solution. Either that company can wipe that debt away, or you just pay the interest payments, which is what they're doing. Hence, they can still sustainably run as a football club, and they can still buy players. Like they just bought James Maddison, for example. So in terms of a leverage buyout, the Glazer family can add to the existing debt over, I think it's a certain level, unless it helps sustainably run the football club. Because obviously you can never have a football club that runs out of business at the top level of football anyway.
Yeah.
Hence why, say, Chelsea wasn't allowed to run out of business, for example, I guess.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes absolute sense, guys. Right, let's round off here, guys. So obviously we will be back. Are we doing a well, I suspect that Andre, in fact, actually, before we go, we'll obviously do a transfer show, probably not tomorrow but Thursday. Hopefully Andre Onana will be announced by then. But Tom, before we leave, and just to round up, can you just give us a brief, just kind of transfer where we are, just regarding United's transfers? Also, we'll elaborate later on in the week.
Yeah, well, in terms of the structure for the transfer at this moment in time, like the Andre Onana deal, it appears anyway to myself it's going to be wrapped up probably the very latest by Thursday. Man United are going to put in another official bid within the next couple of hours, days, that suffices close to Inter's evaluation, or to a point where Inter are willing to compromise and meet in the middle, if you like. As I said before, they have that brilliant working relationship with Manchester United from the Romelu Lukaku deal. So in terms of a deal for Onana, it's a matter of days probably than weeks, really. Højlund one is interesting. The communication is still there between Manchester United and Atalanta, and they're still discussing fees and different ways that they can include certain players in the deal or whatnot, as we discussed with Amad Diallo and potentially Mason Greenwood. And as it stands right now, no official bid has gone in for Rasmus Højlund. And from there, Manchester United, as soon as they get wrapped up the Andre Onana deal, the expectation is that they will pursue Højlund. And they also want to pursue a lot of outgoings as well. Fred potentially going to Fulham, and he has a couple of Saudi Arabian clubs that are interested in him. Similar sort of situation where a couple of clubs are interested in Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, but whether they follow up on that interest, they haven't done so thus far. So whether they do a late move in the window, who knows? But yeah, and then really summing up to, if Manchester United want to bring in any more players, as I said before, there's discussion that Ten Hag would like another midfielder, potentially two strikers. Like, any more business that United want to do, if they were to sign Onana and Højlund in addition to Mason Mount, they have to sell players to then finance other deals that they want. So if they want to go for a Lavia or an Amrabat sort of midfield signing, they're going to have to sell players. If they want another number 9 to come into the football club from whatever level that is, maybe just a more experienced number 9, even if it's somebody like an Erik Choupo-Moting sort of profile who has a bit more experience in the game than, say, for example, a Højlund does in terms of world football, there's a decision there to be made. Or if they wanted to go down the bit more younger model and try and get Kolo Muani and get Højlund, I mean, there's options there for United, but those options aren't there right now because they don't have the player sales to balance the finances due to FFP. So, to summarise, as I say, Onana looks set to be done. I think they're going to pursue Højlund straight after they get the Onana deal done, and then really focus on getting a lot of money for the sales that they can. And then if there's time left in the window and the certain targets that they were looking at are still available to get, they could pursue one of them. And the most likely scenario would be that they'd pursue another midfielder.
Makes sense. So thanks for the update, Tom. Really appreciate it. And like I said, guys, we will be doing a transfer update show, hopefully with the news on the announcement that Onana will be announced on Thursday. But obviously, make sure you stay tuned to that. But anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember, if you are new to SoundCloud, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter. We are UnitedX, and smash the notification button. Make sure that you also check out @TomJournalist on Twitter as well. Make sure you check @TomJournalist1, on Twitter. Make sure you follow my man Tom, who's been obviously the GOAT journalist when it comes to giving us updates. I know it's depressing, guys. I know we're a bit frustrated. I know we're a bit angry, but we are community. I do want to try and keep things a little bit lighthearted and positive as we go through this whole process as well. I'll also be trying to a few community-based things. Check out the community tab on the channel as well. Make sure you check out the merch if you want it as well, and consider becoming a member if you'd like to support the channel as well. But yeah, stay tuned for more updates, guys. Have a nice day, everyone, and cheers. Peace.